Hello my dear beautiful bastards and welcome to Oberland Station, a settlement situated right next to the train tracks with an unremovable tower, whose purpose is to be an annoying little bitch. I began construction by restoring the bitch and turning it into a black tower, with a large roof and black walls, both outside and inside. The amount of blackness that consumed this tower can only be compared to the black holes that roam through space and time, ready to devour anything that comes near them. Once the tower was done, I wanted to create a border control, in a way where the trains passing by would need to stop and verify the legitimacy of their travels. I placed this tunnel piece, but it was too small, so I kept resizing it until it was big enough to pass as a border control entrance for trains. Since every border control has a ramp or a gate, I needed one as well. I couldn't find a good item for it, and all doors and gates didn't fit in the enlarged tunnel, but at one moment the gods touched me and gave me the idea that strengthened my belief in them. I simply needed to take two garage doors and tilt them sideways, one on each side. So now, in order for trains to pass, they need to give documents, and then the garage doors get opened and they can pass through. There was another problem, this pile of rubble that covered a part of the tracks. I decided to use that as another method of making sure illegal trains don't just speed through the border control. I placed a large bulldozer and a hole next to it. The dozer would clear the rubble once the train inspection finished. It would move the rubble to the hole and then back from the hole to the tracks once the train has passed. I know it is impossible and the dozer would likely fuck up the tracks, but just imagine it, okay? Fucking imagine it. Since the dozer was on the opposite side of the actual settlement, I needed a bridge that went from the settlement to the construction area. I had trouble making the bridge because I still didn't know what the settlement would look like, so I went over and started placing the wall that would surround the main area. The idea was to build a militaristic protected trade market which would deal in weapons, drugs and body parts. It didn't take long before I decided to place the bridge on the edge of the entire wall, surrounding it completely and going towards the construction area. Once it was done, I had a massive black structure with paths that kinda made sense. What didn't make sense was not having an elevator that could get people up to the bridge, so I placed this one right next to the tower. It took some time to align it all, but it eventually made sense. I would prefer if the elevator was made out of metal, but the modder who made it got banned, so we won't see a metal one anytime soon. I went back towards the border control and noticed how these foundations stuck out of the ground unpleasantly. The best way to get rid of this problem is to place bushes. A lot of bushes. I already talked about this, but just to make sure, if you have a problem, use concrete to cover it. But then if the concrete becomes the problem too, cover it in bushes. It makes everything look much more natural. The market entrance has this concrete design with a booth and electronic door. To enter the settlement, they would need to hand over a couple of documents and then a switch would open the door. I continued placing the concrete on the inside to create a security area. Most of the walls are from mesh. This allows transparency and safety at the same time. The structures within the marketplace are all made out of simply modular housing elements, which almost caused me to buy a sword and start using that to stab my sister. There's quite a lot of Minecrafty building involved with this mod, so if you wanna use it, prepare your mind accordingly. I went with only metal items because adding wood to a place where you can buy guns is a bit risky. A small fire would spread like crazy and it could create a crater the size of Megaton. Both the floor and the walls have pillars that end up creating little blocks into which you place insulation first and then tiles, both inside and outside, one by one. The first room is blue on the inside, while there's metal plates on the outside. I went with the same tile for all outer walls, while the rooms have different ones. One is concrete, while another has rugs, a wild pattern of magnificent rugs. The wall is also patterned in a rather strange way. The third room has two parts, one is red, which will be walled off, while the other part will serve as a hallway with a showcase of weaponry. It seems a bit weird now, but the completed thing will make sense, don't worry. Placing the ceiling was a bit tricky. I don't know what I did wrong, but the modular items refused to snap properly, so I chose to place the good old metal roof across all rooms. Now I went back outside and I wanted the entrance booth to look like an actual booth, with a glass window and a small opening where people would place their documents through. Do you guys know that glass is made out of sand? Well, I had a lot of sand up my ass by the time I finished designing this part. I managed to figure it out by using the Institute glass railings. To cover the white edges, I used the thin concrete railings, which proved their usefulness. As the train approaches, it can see warning lights and a slow down sign. Once it enters the tunnel, another sign will prompt the driver to prepare the documents. A stop sign with a red button indicates when the train should come to a halt. On the left, a person will be sitting ready to accept the documents and inspect them. Once processed, the terminal will be used to turn the button into a green color and the gates will open. Before the train can proceed, the dozer will clear the rubble, which will go into the pit. Going forward, we can see the settlement entrance titled Oberland Trade Market with a subtitle Guns, Drugs, Limbs. The black tower with a green door is a mystery that will not be revealed. You will need to download the save if you want to find out what it hides. The door will usually be closed, it is open now for conveniency. In order to enter the settlement, traders will need to follow instructions written on the door. The documents necessary to enter are the Boston Pass, which is granted to every person who entered Boston legally, the trader license, which is given to every person who becomes a legitimate trader, and the gender card. A person will take these items and open the door with a switch, if everything is good. As we enter the marketplace, we can see a bench on the left and the market for naval weapons on the right. The room is decorated with Far Harbor items, and you can probably notice the shitty posters behind the good ones. I think it adds a lot of believability, and I added those all over the place. You can notice the harpoon and a few other weapons that can be traded in the shop. The blue lights, along with the blue walls and floor, give off a nice marine feeling. The next room is for heavy guns, as the sign indicates. Display cases with heavy weapons, heavy ammo on shelves, and a variety of wall decorations that make the room look very nice. The blue scale on the counter is used to measure the weight of the limbs that a trader wants to trade for the guns. This is the main trading area, and the majority of traders will spend their time in here, selling and buying guns, drugs and limbs. Before going to the security area, we can enter the final building, which immediately shows a hallway with the displayed weapons on the wall to the right. These weapons are mostly for show. If a trader wants one, they need to visit the previous room. The red door opens the room where the limbs can be obtained. I actually chopped up a few individuals in here, but since I had to load the save, they disappeared, so I'm very sorry about that, but I believe that the red design of this room gives it a very nice, limby feel. The drug room is left. Once inside, we can see a lot of colors and drugs. A huge amount of drugs displayed on shelves and counters. A chair for legless motherfuckers is here for safety, because you never know when some drugged motherfucker can suddenly become legless. All of this surrounds a Christmas tree and a set of 4 flamingos. Certain traders have the privilege to rent this area and get very high. Once the traders are drugged, the flamingos become dragons, and the Christmas tree combined with all the colors in the room create the effect where they feel like they're flying in the open skies and battle between each other using the dragons. This place is unsafe, so most traders tend to not go in. The security area is rather simple. A lot of weapons and ammo, along with crates with more weapons and ammo, are scattered around, while the security booth contains a table with filing cabinets and a source of power. Turning off the switch kinda fucks up the lights, which isn't exactly what I intended, but it works well enough. The nearby elevator gets us on the bridge, and the bridge gets us across the train tracks and towards the construction area. This settlement took way too long to make, but the more mods I install, the more options I have, and the more time it takes to do stuff. It is kinda annoying because the views aren't what they used to be, so spending 5 days on one video isn't very practical. If you want to help me out to make this practical, visit my Patreon and give me $1 or 2, or 5, or 10. It would really help, and there are some really cool rewards there. Also, Felicia, I'm sorry that I didn't find a way to incorporate your vagina into this settlement. We'll find a way. Thanks for watching, and make sure to let me know what do you think of this settlement, and do you have any suggestions for future ones. I have been Petard, your glorious lord, and may the blessings of Petardia eternally touch your butt.